survivors that are with us. And Barbara can tell us firsthand what it was like as a very, very small child. I'll leave it to Barbara. Without any further ado, Barbara will tell you her story and her journey of survival and her courage. And she's someone who we look up to. We look at her as a friend of Chabad, and a friend who is always there helping people. Barbara, share with us your story, and then we'll open it up to the floor for questions.
Okay. Well, if you expect a flawless speech, forget it. Because I'm tired. I've been looking after 3 children all day, and I walked miles, and I'm quite old. So it's hard. Okay, if you want a reasonably coherent, good speech, put it up on the internet. Which I do much better, just under my name. But I'll tell you bits and pieces, because just whatever comes to my head. I have no notes on anything. Right. As you said, is Barbara. Frankiss at present. Wasn't my obvious name, but I was born a long time ago, 1938. I think how old I am. It scares me, actually. Anyway, I was born in 1938 in Warsaw. 1939, war broke out, as you probably know. And my mother has decided it's safer for us to go to Eastern Poland because the Western Poland was already invaded by the Germans. By the way, I'm not politically correct. All of us speak Germans, not Nazis, because a lot of people were not members of the Nazi Party, which is Germany to denounce the things as well. Anyway, back to, if you're disjointed, I hope you don't mind. So, anyway, we decided to travel, or my mother decided, I didn't have much say in the matter, I was about a year old. So, to go to Eastern Poland, which her family came from, a place which is called Kovel. It is now northwest Ukraine, but then belonged to Poland. Anyway, we got there, apparently, stayed with my family. My father didn't join us. I know why, because he was in the army, and he was a doctor, so he was very much needed to treat wounded soldiers. It was a very uneven game between the Germans in tanks and Polish soldiers on horses, not exactly a contest. So anyway, back to me. We were there for about, I think, a couple of years. I vaguely remember it a bit. Yeah. Then the German invaded that part of Poland, invaded Kovel, and the first thing they set up is to murder the Jews. They have it, lucky. So my mother decided to go. Or apparently, I went with my grandmother as well. I'm not sure. Anyway, we decided to go back to Warsaw because they both were occupied by the Germans, so might as well go back to Warsaw and join my father. Now, Jews were not allowed to travel by train. Jews were allowed to do anything. They were allowed to breathe just about. So, but my mother was quite brave, and so she bought herself a great big green hat. She looked Jewish, so she was white. And then she wore that hat, and I do remember that journey, and because and every time someone came into the carriage, she looked the other way towards the window, so they wouldn't see her face, and half the face was covered by the hat, because I run around and misbehave as usual. And so, anyway, we managed, fortunately, to get to Warsaw, go straight to the ghetto when my father was there. By that time, he was, I think, he wasn't in the army any longer, because I remember he was there with us. And all I remember, the ghetto, Warsaw ghetto, was an awful place. We stayed in a tiny room, and there was hardly any food. All I was fed on that ghastly semolina. And to this day, when I look at it, I virtually puke. Sorry for my expression. So, stay there, and somehow, after a short time, I couldn't tell you how long, my mother and I managed to be smuggled out of the ghetto. My father didn't live with us in the ghetto in the same. I think he was there, but but the place was so small he wouldn't get any room. We also lived with my grandmother, my father's mother. So anyway, we managed to get out, and as I smuggled out, and we found, and my mother found accommodation in the basement of a tenement building, which with several other Jewish people. They were hiding, and someone was bringing them food, water, and all the necessities. Obviously for a lot of money. I couldn't be there because I would have made noise and would have been discovered in the basement. So she managed to arrange me to be with a couple who had a child of my own age, I think on the second floor in the same building. They put me there, and I was there with them. And I had to be very, very quiet, because they were terribly worried that if the neighbors discovered with 2 children instead of 1, then they would denounce me. Thanks, cheers. They would denounce them, and obviously they would have known it was a Jewish child. So they would be put to death, so I'd be put to death, so I had to be quiet. As a result, I had to stay behind the wardrobe for all day and every day. And like, you can imagine it's a corner there, and the wardrobe was there away from it, and I was just standing there. Oh. My only entertainment was to lick my finger and draw some patterns. And of course, once around the polished wardrobe, after a while, all the polish came out. So I remember they discovered they'd beat me up, I remember. I said, what else am I supposed to do? Anyway, I was allowed to lie down at night, obviously, to sleep, and for meals, whatever they were. And I didn't have any bedding, I remember, some pew straw, I didn't have any pajamas, nothing. I just slept there. I don't think I ever watched. It's been spinning. So I was there for some time. I don't know how long. Must have been a year, 9 months, 18 months, I don't know. Anyway, one day, there's a huge commotion everywhere. All of a sudden, I'm screaming, shouting, everybody had to come down from every flat. What happens? Well, so everybody comes down. I had to come down as well, because Germans were checking every flat, make sure it's completely empty. We had to go to the courtyard, and of course the people who sort of looked after me, obviously for a lot of money my mother was paying every month. They said I've just come for a few days. I'm a member of the family from the country, and I've just come to visit them. So we all went down. That's an awful thing. And I heard screaming and shouting and God knows what. And so what happened? And then I heard shots, and then I heard silence. I didn't see what was going on because I was a little girl and a grown-up was in front of me, they were in front of me, blocking my view. But I didn't realize what was happening. Someone has betrayed, do you know for what? For 12 kilos of flour, the Jews there. I told the Germans, SS, there were Jews hiding there. So they came and took the whole lot out and shot them. Among them my mother, 20-year-old woman. So anyway, coming back to it, after that happened, I made sure I didn't see the bodies. We all came up. Now the guy is in a quandary. You know, he was very charitable. Inverted commas first. The charity was no longer there because she wasn't paying. So what was he to do? He said, I'm going to get rid of her. And she couldn't pay, obviously she was dead. Oh, by the way, my father at the time had no contact, he was in concentration camps. By the way, he just went to 8 of them. And he decided to get rid of me. So one night in December, he took me by tram and I asked him where we going, and he sort of was vague, I can't remember exactly. And then I fell asleep. December winters in Poland are not like British winters. They're not mild. Trust me, there's snow below freezing. There wasn't a particularly hard winter, but hard enough. And I wake up in the middle of nowhere in a forest, edge of the forest, field, frozen stiff, because he dropped me there, he left me there, and he took my coat away to sell it, I suppose, maybe his daughters, I don't know. So he took my coat away, and here I am lying there. Where am I? He must have given me a sleeping pill, because I woke up in the morning, and I said, what's happening? Well, I'm here. He must have left, yeah. And I rationalized he must have left me there, or lost me, that's what I thought. So I wouldn't move out of this spot because I felt that he was going to come back and collect me. So I lay there all day. Of course no one came, frozen stiff, anything like that. And another night again, it was dreadful. Very, very cold. No one came. Next day, so I was there 2 nights. Morning after the first day spending there, and another night, well, I hear some noise. What's happening? And I hear some children or teenagers sledging. There was a bit of a hill there, they were sledging. And they saw me. He said, oh look, there is a gypsy girl. So I said, I'm not a gypsy. Didn't know who I didn't tell them who I was. I told them I wasn't a gypsy. So, and they could see what a state I was in. Very sweet children, because one of them put a coat underneath me, which sat me down, and the others put coats on top of me, trying to defrost. And she did. And I heard them say, we have to take her to the police station. What do you do? You find the child, your teenager. So I screamed, I said, not to the police station, because I thought once I go to police, me always Jewish, they're going to kill me. So, but there was no choice. So, in Poland, there were 2 types of police stations. One was a Polish police station, staffed by local police, looking at the everyday crime, theft, and whatever you do, all the crimes which you have, and fights, drunkenness, and all that. And the second one was a German police station. Main occupation was to get rid of, kill as many Jews as can. That was the really main thing. Who is Jewish, hunt them up and kill them. I've got a great love for Germans even now. So, anyway, took me to this Polish police station and brought me here. I remember arriving there, nice and warm, in the police station, starving, hungry, obviously. So one of the policemen, very sweet man, offers me his lunch, whatever. And I remember looking at it, saying, I want that. It's black bread, I don't eat black bread, it's for poor people. So I couldn't have it, so someone gave me some white bread, so I looked at it with approval. I said, yeah, I have that. That's all right. I could have that. So after having stuffed myself with a bit of bread and things, I had a bit of eating problem because I was half starved, so I couldn't eat that much. And so what are we going to do with that child? You can't have a child at the police station. I was too young to be employed. I was only 4, so I could read and write. And so they said, we have to inform the Germans that there is a child there. So I thought, oh no, that's the end of me. Anyway, one of the policemen, one who gave me white bread, spoke German, so he took me there. And I remember being sat in a room with all the lights on me, trying to establish whether, by the shape of my head, I don't know what criteria they used, they're trying to establish whether I was Jewish or not. Fortunately, I was taught Catholic prayers, so I could recite them, which is good, and I was told not to divulge my surname, which was Feinstein, it was very Jewish. And I told them my first name, I wouldn't tell my parents' names or anything. I pretended to be an idiot. It wasn't very difficult actually, because I was a bit, not that much. So they said, so they came to the conclusion I wasn't Jewish. Back I go to the police station. What are you going to do with that child? They really didn't know. So one of the policemen said, I'd take her home. He took me home. And when I arrived there was a small flat. It was literally littered with children. I mean, corridor everywhere. The kids, all ages, and just sleeping on the floor. There was absolutely no space. So nothing else. They gave me some blanket or whatever, and I slept on the floor with them. Unbeknown to me, the policeman who gave me the white bread, which apparently talking to his wife, they wanted to adopt me. So he said, it's a little girl, and then, she's got nobody, she's an orphan, most likely, why don't we take her? They were childless. So I remember her coming next day, having a look at me and saying, she's lovely, sir, and you can't believe now, but I wasn't bad. I've got some pictures to show you. And but pity she hasn't got blue eyes. Can't have it all, can you? And so, I didn't have blue eyes. In spite of it, they took me. So he was on a bike because Polish police wasn't allowed cars, just bikes. So he sat me in the bike, walked there, she walked next to me, and off we went to their place. Now, I'll show you the pictures. Are you interested to see it? I've got copies. I did actually. It tells you more or less what it is. Can you distribute it if you will? Yeah. This one is unmarked. Yeah, pass it down. Yes, so just pass it. So you can see who is who. And their name was Blavatsky. Good. What about this side?
So before you know that,
I was 4 and a half. It was December. I was born in July 1938. Yeah, because from the age of 3 or 4, 5, I remember. I don't remember. I remember the children of the
How old are you?
4 and a half years. Only remember the bit of when you're ready, let me know. My story is not that alarming. Right, okay. Can I continue?
Yes.
Right, where were we?
So you've been adopted
Yeah, I know, I'm joking. Right, so here I am, coming to that place. straight in the sewing machine, make me a night dress. Well, she actually tore some sheets and made it. She was good with people. And there was a sofa, sort of, which was like sofa you could sleep on it too, which was a bed. And they made some, I remember she made the bed with white sheets, put in, and dressed me in bed, night gown which was white. And I went to bed and said, my God, I feel like a queen. I really felt like that. I haven't slept on a bed for months or whatever. I haven't, I haven't had sheets for ages. I think they washed me first. They might have washed me in a police station, I don't remember. So I stayed there. And now I wake up the next morning, fantastic. I can't get up because I haven't been exercising. I've been, staying behind the wardrobe for months no end. So, oh well. So she said, gave me a broom, said, try to sweep the floor. My sweeping wasn't that efficient, but at least I was moving. And cutting long story short, after a few weeks, I was getting better and better with good food and really, and quite relaxed. And of course, one has a sixth sense in a way. I told them my parents' name, I told them everything. And I told them I was Jewish, they obviously guessed. So it was okay. She made me a coat, and I went down to the courtyard. There was a sandpit. It was a very modern block for that time, and there was sandpit. We used to play football. We used to do sandcastles, and we used to, what else used to do? And there were swings. I had a very lovely time. See, don't forget, I wasn't used to seeing my mother because I wasn't with her for months no end. So I was probably emotionally undeveloped, completely, so I don't know. But so, and I sort of gradually came to life. By coming out on the road, a small child, I remember she made me a coat. We went out, and I saw a German. My God, if you ever seen a pillar of salt, that was me. I just completely froze. I would not move. I was so terrified. And squeezed her hand, and she said to me, if you show any fear with the Germans, they will know you're Jewish. You have to overcome it. They won't do you any harm. I'm with you. I'm not Jewish. They won't do me, so just don't worry about it. And after some time, I was very nonchalant about it. So a German, I even smiled. I don't know. So that was the story to that. So that was end of 1943, yes. And also, I tell you some very funny story. Because her husband's wages weren't actually sufficient to live on, so she has to supplement it. How do you supplement in the war? You smuggle things. So she used to go to Krakow from Warsaw every month to buy meat, which from a farmer near Krakow, from a farmer, and used to bring it back to Warsaw. So we used to travel every month on that. But in Poland, what they had, the Germans, you imagine you got a 10-coach train, 9 coaches were for the Germans and 1 for the Poles. So the Germans' coaches were empty, hardly trouble, but the Poles were overcrowded. So people were most people had to go, couldn't find any more even standing place inside, so go on the roof of a train. And they were all steam trains those days, so imagine they're slightly convex with a bit of rail at the side. We used to climb on that roof. And it was such fun because we used to be high up, we used to have a game, who puts your head last gets a sweet. Because if you don't put your head down under the bridges, you get your head cut off. It's not a good way to go. So when I hardly ever, only once I got a sweet, I was obviously a coward. So I got a sweet. yeah, I'm very proud. The most boys got it. So every month we used to do that. Got her. One day she was very brave. She decided meat isn't expensive enough. I'm going to smuggle tobacco. And there was certainly a death penalty for smuggling tobacco. So what she did, as I told you, she was very good with the needle. She ripped up my coat and lined all my coat with tobacco. The sort of, so I was, imagine I smelled, I can't even stand it. Anyway, she pushed me through a checkpoint, because who would obviously check, suspecting this a 4-year-old little girl was going to be smuggling this. So I'm quite a seasoned smuggler, really. So anyway, so we then started on tobacco, which was good. Then 1943 was a Jewish uprising. I didn't know anything about it, I'm afraid. 1944 was an uprising. Warsaw was completely bombed because of stupid Poles, I don't know, politically totally incorrect, but that's what they decided to do. They hoped the Russians would help. They were on the other side of a river Vistula to go through Warsaw, but they wouldn't help them because they expected the Russians were coming, so we do an uprising and get rid of the Germans. Because they didn't, because the uprising was done by non-communists, and there were communists at the time, Russia, Stalin. And we, so everybody had to get out, and they bombed Warsaw. We went to a farmer's field for 3 days, and they would go, cannons and going all the time, and noise. It was August, so it was very hot. We slept under the open air, and then we went to some little town after a few days. Her cousin, I think, near Warsaw, and we stayed there for 3 months. And I was liberated by Russians at the time in January 1945, and then we tried to get back to the flat. It was impossible, it was ruins. So we went to the country when his brother used to live in Poznan, and we had I think refugees from Warsaw got a little house and everything, 1 cow or something. So we were living in that place. And one day, and I was a good Catholic, I used to go to church with them. But he didn't go, he couldn't be bothered. But she did, only because the neighbors were talking, she didn't. So, as I used to go with her, quite enjoyed the white dress, very pretty, who wouldn't? One day, it was Easter Sunday, we come back home, and it's a strange person, the 2 people, very attractive woman, and a man who I sort of vaguely knew, sort of vaguely recognized. And Mr. Nowatzki said, "Oh, this man claims to be Barbara's father." Oh, by the way, I'm called Barbara because they found me. I went to them on the 4th of December, which is Santa Barbara. It's a saint, Polish saint, and on that day, because Maria, which I was Miriam actually, so I was not a sufficiently Christian, and Barbara is very Christian, so they called me Barbara. And so they called me. And he said, Barbara, she says he's Barbara's father. So she looked at him, nah, rubbish. She looked at him, one look at him, one look at me. She told me later she knew it, because I looked like him. And you have to feel pity for me, I'm sorry. But I do look like my father. I have more hair. So, where was I? Okay, and so we stayed a couple of days there. He found me, that's a detective story, I won't bore you with it. And I said, I'm not going without a lady, I'm not going without her. So we went, he went, his new wife went, because he knew his wife was dead, but he didn't know anything about me. So they found me, how they found me, incredible story. So, and we went back to Warsaw and stayed there. After a few days, she had to go back to her husband to the country. And that's about Tuesday end. I stayed with my parents, but my father, who worked at the time, didn't work as a doctor for America, and joined the Distribution Committee, which was an organization to help the Eastern European Jews to with their food and recover a bit. He found him a place as a night porter. They go back to Warsaw eventually, because she hated the country. And I kept contact with them all throughout my childhood. I lived with my father. I used to go every Sunday to have meals with them. I sometimes went on holidays with them. My relationship with my father, my stepfather, wasn't that great. They had their own child, and people, you have to understand it. I do understand now. You have to cut off completely what happened in the past. That's the only way you can survive. We didn't talk about it. No one ever mentioned the war or mentioned anything before the war. So, and then in 1958, 1956, there was a political thaw. Stalin was dead by then. I was a great big communist. I'm a right wing now. So, and the result. So Jews could actually go to Israel. They allowed Jews to leave, but they had to renounce their citizenship. But I'm applying for it again because it had to get rid of it. I mean, so I remember my Jewishness, sort of, not Jewish, but feeling Jewish, and Zionism started. Someone organized a sort of premises, we used to play table tennis, and all these people came from very youngsters, part of the world. We had lectures about Israel, we had, as I said, played various games, and the preparation to go to Israel. And I very much wanted to go to Israel. My stepmother went to Israel for 3 months on reconnaissance trip, came back and said, not for your father, he says, too hot and too many doctors in Israel. So that was it. So, but we left ostensibly for Israel, but we had on a piece of paper, Italian visa, suppose would know, not enough, our stateless documents, and broke up away from the transport in Rome. And by the way, I wanted to go to Israel, really, but they said to me, I even had a place in University, Jerusalem, because by that time I was at university in Poland. But they said, if you are 21, there was age of majority then 21, I was 18. He said, if you want to join us, you might not be able to. If you come to the United States, you want to go to Israel, have a right of return, you can go anytime, which is reasonable. I thought that's fair enough. So I went with them after 9 months stint in Rome, which was great. I went with them to US, but I made myself a promise. First holiday, students' holiday I had, I would go to Israel. So I go to Israel. I went bumming around in Europe, I went to Israel, I meet a guy who I think was French. As it turned out, he was British from London. I stayed with her cousin in Tel Aviv. He stayed with her. Next year he came over to America, some fictitious summer job, difficult there. We got married and I came here. That's it.
Thank you. I actually have a message that Barbara sent me back in December 2020. We had given Barbara some goodies for Shabbos, and she wrote to us. It was COVID. We delivered her a package, and she said, I thoroughly enjoyed the chicken soup and the cholent. I've only eaten cholent 2 or 3 times since the war. I was a small child in the Warsaw Ghetto, and I remember my grandma making it when she could still get the ingredients. Unfortunately, she and my mother and all the relatives perished in the Holocaust. When I was a child during the war, I hated being Jewish, but now in my old age, I am proud and very much enjoy being Jewish. We need to keep giving and being there for each other in the community. That's it.
I've always wanted to live in Israel, as I told you, but I settled for Amsterdam suburb. It's probably more or less the same.
Does anyone want to ask any questions to Barbara before we finish off and go for Mara? William?
Dziękuję bardzo.
What?
Dziękuję bardzo.
Proszę bardzo.
That's Benjamin French.
Yeah.
As you possibly tell, my parents were Polish.
Yeah.
The story you told almost mirrors almost word for word my parents' experience.
Really?
And the question would be, you mentioned about the bombing of Warsaw. By the way, my stepfather was a Warsaw ghetto uprising.
Was it?
Yeah. You mentioned the bombing of Warsaw. Was that by the Russians? Or who
By
was that?
German? Oh
Okay.
no, German.
In 1940.
Oh yeah,
1944.
Russians did it. The sunbathed on the beach on the river on the other side. Yeah.
And the other question I had for you was, right at the beginning of your speech, you talked about being politically correct. What are your feelings to Poles and Germans today?
Very mixed to Poles because, Poles betrayed. My mother, a young woman, perished, was killed, was murdered because Poles wanted small reward. But on the other hand, Poles saved me. I wouldn't be here telling you a story if not for the Poles. So it's very mixed. And don't forget, I also lived there for a very long time. Most people, Holocaust survivors, arrived here, and they just after the war. And I came in 1961. I left Poland in 1958, long after the war. So I was very much immersed in a Polish culture. And bilingual.
Sorry, I think this is just my my bad memory anyway, and having fasted now for nearly 25 hours.
For you.
Your father, I forgot where he was when you kind of went off. Like, where was your father when you saw him again? Like, where has he been?
Well, he was first somewhere in Warsaw, we're living separately, because back on accommodation, made sure we had to get out of the ghetto, and he was captured in the ghetto and was sent to concentration camps. Yeah.
So
So
at the end of the
the
war, he got
reason
out?
he survived is because he was a doctor, and the Germans did not want to treat typhus, which was type of typhoid. They didn't want to, they kept away, so they let the doctors to do it. So he went from one to another, treat them. He got it himself apparently, but he was,
Jose wanted to ask. Jose.
That was the only question I was interested. You were saying when you
And
were
you have
found
to-
by those teenage girls and you were like 4 years old.
Boys.
How did you know at that age that as a Jew you shouldn't be safe in the police station?
Because when I was in the ghetto, I'd be probably drummed into me. I don't remember that. Drummed into me. Never tell anyone you're Jewish. I remember I think my father's mother. My father was completely non-religious, didn't want to, but his mother, I remember doing, lighting candles or putting something on her head in a white cloth. I said, "Why are you doing that?" I remember she was doing it, so I knew that was Jewish. Everybody was Jewish in the ghetto, so you obviously knew, and there were prayers.
But you knew there was danger at the police station for
Oh, absolutely. I was
before.
told never to say anything, never tell anyone I was Jewish. Absolutely kept stum, and learned learned all the Catholic prayers because they were preparing for smuggling me out.
So, as someone who obviously experienced the Holocaust,
Speak up, because I'm
I-
86.
as someone who went through the Holocaust, I'm curious what your thoughts are on what's happening now in Israel since October 7th.
Really want to know?
It feels
I'm
similar.
devastated, the whole thing, really. I had sleep after the October the 7th. I couldn't sleep for really several nights. And eventually ran out of sleeping pills. So it's just terrible. And
Did you feel it was reliving the Holocaust?
yes, a lot of it. Holocaust is always with me. I mean, I never say to anything to anyone, to be honest. I see the kids on the bus, teenagers, fooling around, but perfectly good, you know, jolly, reasonably good behaviour, not something you can condemn. And I look at them, very happy, coming back from school. Yeah. And I thought, these guys, if they were living in Eastern Europe those days, innocent children would be all slaughtered like anything. Always with me, every time I see a child. It's just dreadful. But I'm, you know, I thought I've got to enjoy life. One has one life, you know, whatever's wrong with me, whole litany I could give you. If you've got 2 hours, I can mention everything. But you know, people see me. I have a dog. I'm walking. People say, "Oh, how are you?" I'm fine, great, and I grit my teeth because my spine hurts like anything. I've got to enjoy life. You know, they were devoid of life. You know, their life was cut short. I'm still capable of thinking, or playing bridge, or doing things, and still walking. I have to be thankful, and I've got to enjoy every minute I have. Won't be that long. I mean, how long can I live?
What made you lose contact with the police family that looked after you?
I never lost contact. Never. To the end, when I came to England, my husband and I went to visit them. To start with. Then, when he passed away, they were quite old. He was born in 1885. She was born in 1895. And before she died, I mean, she had dementia actually. So I used to. When I got to the States, I had a part-time job, part-time I was studying. So half of my small wage went to them every single month. I supported them 100% totally because the dollar was very valuable at the time because of special exchange. And I visited them. When I had my children, when he died, she came here for a year even to stay with me. No, I never forgot.
And one final question: the people that gave you up, the one that you left you in the forest,
yes.
Did you ever?
My father
find out what
apparently, what apparently happened, my father knew who it was, went to see him, and he moved. Eventually, they found his address by, I don't know about the Book of Crow. And he went to see them, and apparently got white when he saw them. He said, "Where's my daughter?" He said, "Oh, she was killed." He told them. My father never believed it, so he went to the police stations the next day. "I want to see that guy again. Oh, he's not telling the truth." And he was married, or he was partner of a German sympathizer as well, woman. So he went there next day, and what happened? The man's disappeared. It's gone. He ran away. They didn't know where or anything. So he obviously felt very good. He thought he'd be arrested what he's done.
Was that the one who left you in the woods?
Yeah.
Yeah. I was going to ask.
Yes.
Can you just clarify, after 1945, was it still a Jewish community in Poland? Like you were there for another few years?
I was there for several years. I was there till 58.
Yeah, so there's a whole...
There wasn't a Jew.
Just you and your father?
No, there were Jews. They were, but they didn't keep anything. I didn't even know there was a Jewish cemetery in Warsaw. Didn't have any idea. Had nothing. Religious didn't exist. But strangely, my father had a lot of friends, whether it was from council, works, survived, Jewish friends. When they had parties, because he was only quite well in the and he, all the parties of all Jewish people, they're strange, the old doctors as well. Only mixed couples were not, but generally I remember everyone was Jewish, but no religion, nothing. I mean, I know zilch about religion.
But Barbara has a very, very Jewish heart, because the reason how I met Barbara is that she was traveling on a bus, and it was very, very hot.
I drive, by the way, but I love public transport.
Because everything is Hashgacha Pratis. She was traveling on a bus, and she met Mrs. Sarah Dubov from Wimbledon. And she said to her, "Are you wearing a wig?" So she said, "Yes." She said,
I did say
she said shaitel, sorry, she said shaitel. She said, "How do you wear a shaitel in this heat?" So she said, "Where do you live?" So she said, "I live here in northwest London." She said, I'll put you in touch with someone who will look after you, and the rest is history.
Because she happened to come from South London, which I lived for a while. So that's why. So
You know that her daughter just married their brother from New York, my nephew. So we're now Makatana.
Oh, I see, so you might.
Anyway, a big thank you to Barbara.
I think I'm right in saying my grandmother remarried in Krakow in 1944.
The Jewish guy.
It's in Jewish wedding. The first person was in 1929.
I go with Martin to living every year, because that feels my responsibility. And they somehow like me for no reason, I don't know. And I go and we go to all the shows and everything else. I become really Jewish. What? Yeah, there was lots of images there.
Do you know somebody called S.B. Feinstein?
No.
What's your surname?
It was fine.
Yeah, that's my I'm fine, but they shortened, I know they shortened it to Feinstein. That was my
I tell you,
birth certificate.
when
And
I
my
went to
grandparents also grew up in,
Where?
well, their parents, I don't know if it's my grandparents or my great-grandparents, but they were in Poland. My
Yeah.
aunt was in Poland.
so many, because I went to the cemetery there when I discovered there was one, you know, and I tried to trace my great-grandfather, who was my grandfather, who was here, he was taken and he was murdered as well, the Holocaust, and his son, younger son, and wife, and everything, was a lawyer, he wasn't useful. So what happened, and when they said, look, we can't do anything, it's 100 Feinsteins in this cemetery.
I don't know,
So
but what a coincidence is like,
yeah, it's a
somewhere
very,
down the line.
very common name, like Smith here.
Yeah, and also do you spell Feinstein F-E-I-N? How do you spell your surname? F-E-I-N?
F-E-I-N-S-T-A-E-I-N.
You never know, there could be some back history there.
There could be. I have
Hopefully a nice
cousins.
one.
Since I don't have any cousins, you might as well
It's
become
now 9 o'clock. Time's 9 o'clock. It's now 9 o'clock. We're going to have marriage at
But you don't
9:04
know an Esty?
downstairs for pizza. Then we'll eat right after the marriage at 9:04. Kettle's boiling. It's all ready.